Good morning, Myrna. All right, you guys can drop some messages in the chat there. Say hello to one another. Let us know how's the weather in whatever city you're coming in from is right now. And we have our YouTubers live. I also dropped the link. Good morning. All right, got a few people over here on the YouTube channel, and I'll come back to them. All right. Good morning, Grand Rising, everyone. It's good to see you, Marna. Yes, it's cold. We all had flurries yesterday. Bellwood is sunny and 19. Somebody coming in from Dallas. Yes, coming back from Dallas. Okay, I pray things are well when as you return home. So we're gonna go ahead and get started this morning. As you settle in this morning, as you settle down, I want to welcome you this morning to our weekly Serendipity Sunday. And I want to just say good morning to everyone. I pray that you're warm and that you're well. And even to those of you who are joining this morning on the YouTube channel. So, for those of you who are first time and may not know me, I'm Greg Stanton, also known as Asar. I am your teacher and practitioner for what I call the science of living. It's an approach to spiritual life that focuses not on belief alone, but on lived principles, embodiment, and mastery. This moment matters, not because of tradition or calendar or the date that may be in, but because it marks a new season. February often invites reflections on where we've been, particularly we look at Black History Month. But today we are orienting ourselves to where we are now. Many are sensing that the old framework no longer fits. And there is a quiet readiness, socially, spiritually, and personally, for a way of living that moves beyond um, belief into mastery. So, this is not a gathering about memory this morning, it is a gathering about mastery. What we will explore today is not a new belief system, a new argument, or a new declaration. It's an invitation into embodiment, into living what has always been true, not always been assumed, however. Whether you are here in this space this today or you're listening at another time, I invite you to listen not as an observer, but as a participant, not as a student collecting information, but as authors considering responsibility. Yes, taking on your authorship. So let us begin this morning. We don't struggle because we lack faith. We find ourselves struggling because we do not know how to live what we already know. So today is not about belief, it's about mastery. The title for this teaching is Inalienable. The word means not subject to loss. Spiritually, liberty has always been inalienable. But today, we're not in this space to defend that truth. We're here to live it. To live it, we return to what was given at the beginning. From the beginning, dominion and authorship were given to each of us, given to mankind. The question is not whether they still exist. The question is whether we have assumed them. This is not an abstract idea that I'm presenting this morning. It is explicitly stated at the very beginning of Scripture. In this moment, I am using biblical language as symbolic and functional, naming principles rather than limited to any single tradition or name. When we look in Genesis 1 and 26 through 28. And source, Ptah, Jehovah, Yahweh, um, Allah, whatever you identify with it as. Source said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Source created man in his image, in his own image. In the image of it, Source created him, male and female. And God blessed them, or Source blessed them. And Source said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. Now I want you to notice what is given here. Not permission, not authority, not survival, but stewardship. Not spectatorship, but man was given authorship. Dominion does not mean domination as we see it with countries dominating other countries. It means responsibility. Authorship, it does not mean entitlement. It means conscious participation, expressed in our own authentic ways. Responsibility was given before permission was ever needed. We were entrusted with authorship of life before belief systems were created to explain it. And yet something interrupted our assumption or assuming of what was already true. Here's the contrast. Much of what has passed for spirituality has looked like belief without authorship, faith without responsibility, hope without embodiment. We prayed for change while postponing practice. We waited for permission where authority already existed. We rehearsed what we believe instead of living what we know. The season served its purpose, specifically the period of the Arab and the European interruption, where original authorship was overlaid with borrowed frameworks. But an interruption is not an inheritance, and it does not get to govern this moment. We don't have to continue to pass it on to carry it in old narratives, but it is complete. It's over. It's done with. It's ousted, this interruption. Completion creates space for a shift. In symbolic language, numerology is used to name seasons rather than predict outcomes. In that sense, we look at 2025. It carried the resonance of completion, signaling for each of us what has run its course is being cleared so that something new can consciously assume. Now, we're in 2026, and that's a 1 year, a new beginning. So, in my own shorthand this morning, I want to simply say to each of you, the shift has hit the fan, not as chaos, but as a confirmation that movement is no longer optional. I mean, we have to move to something new. So, if you're comfortable this morning, just say to yourself, the shift has hit the fan. Now, I want you to say again, and it's time to move. And here's what this movement requires for each of us. What is required now is different, not stronger belief, not longer prayers, but assumed authorship. No louder declarations, but lived dominion. Not waiting for doors to open, but recognizing the door is already open and choosing to walk through it. There's a scriptures that tells us there's a door that's open. So this is the shift from inspiration to what I like to call embodiment. From remembering to mastering, from knowing truth to living as though it's operative right here, right now. Scripture often offers symbolic language for the principle I'm talking about. It says, I have set before you an open door, not a future door, an open door. An open door does not require prayer, it requires decision. The door is not proof of promise, it is proof of permission. Scripture also tells us, behold, all things become new. New doesn't mean improved history or revisionist history. New means a new operating context. Old things pass away when old interpretations no longer govern our present behavior. The door speaks to access. Newness speaks to context. What remains is movement. That movement is illustrated powerfully in a very familiar story. You know the story of Joshua and Caleb. It's a lived parable. This is why the story of Joshua and Caleb matters. God's source said to the people, I have given you the land. The inheritance was already established. What remained was the assumption, assuming their rightful state. The spies did not discover whether the land existed. They discovered whether they believed themselves capable of authorship. And I'm asking you this morning, do you believe do you know that you are capable of authorship? You are the author and the finisher of your declared faith. The giants did not cancel the inheritance, they exposed self-concept. The 10 spies were informed but not embodied. They told the truth from the wrong self, what I call the interrupted old self, shaped by fear, memory, and inherited limitations rather than their present authority. Joshua and Caleb did not deny the giants, they denied the giants' authority. Joshua and Caleb were not more faithful than the other 10. They were more willing to assume authorship. We are the authors and finishers of our lives. We must take ownership for authorship. In the same way, this story is not about ancient lands. It's about how we show up today in our families, our workplaces, our communities, our institutions, not merely present within them, but authoring direction, culture, and outcomes. And then there's Moses. Because liberation and possession are not the same thing, Moses was called to lead the people out of Egypt, but not into the land. Not because he failed, but because liberation and possession require different consciousness. We still are running a liberation consciousness where we need to be inside of a possession conversation. Liberation, yes, it breaks chains, but possession requires mastery. Old thought knows how to leave bondage. Now thought knows how to live free. Moses fulfilled his assignment. Joshua assumed the next one. So now the question becomes personal. Where in your life do you already have access but have not yet moved? Now widen your lens. Where opportunities have been opened, laws have shifted, and doors have unlocked. particularly in the decades since the 50s. Yet, authorship has not been fully assumed. Oh, some of us have that tend to, maybe two of us have, a few of us have, but the majority of us haven't. For example, access to higher education, professional careers, home ownership, and capital expanded dramatically during these times. Yet, too often, we entered systems as participants seeking permission rather than as authors shaping outcomes. Where has the door opened? The context have shifted, but authorship not yet assumed. This is where embodiment begins. Civil rights may be legislated. Spiritual liberty operates as law, however, and law requires participation. So this moment calls us beyond agreement into action together as a community. Now, under this paradigm, action may look like this, expressed across three areas of practice. That first area of practice is inner practice. It's called personal authorship. And what we're looking at here is practicing authorship daily, consciously choosing thoughts, interpretations, and responses that align with freedom rather than habit of inheritance. Two, you're moving from access to ownership, not merely entering systems, institutions, or spaces, but shaping the outcomes, culture, and direction within them. The third part of that would be studying principles, not personalities. Too often we read source documents or we read what we call our holy books, and become engulfed in the personality instead of the principles that is being expressed. So committing to learn how life works through law, principle, and application rather than dependency on figures or movements. Another area we have to look at is community practice. I like to call this collective embodiment. One, we're building intentional communities, gathering with others, not for agreement alone, but for accountability, practice, and shared embodiment of truth. Two, we're going to demonstrate freedom through living, not marching, not protesting always, allowing your life, your decisions, your relationships, and your work to become evidence that spiritual liberty is operative now. You're not waiting for someone to set you free. For whom the law has set free is free indeed. And that third area has to do with economic and narrative practice, or I like to call it the outer demonstration, practicing economic and creative authorship. That is, creating, owning, investing, circulating value intentionally rather than merely earning and consuming within inherited systems. Two, inside of this one, is authoring new narratives for now action. A new narrative for a now action looks like consciously replacing stories of delay, limitations, or permission seeking with narratives that affirm capacity, responsibility, and most of all, present moment mastery. This is not a call today to remember. Today's call is a call to live. As you march into this month, be aware of the pull of the old, the desire to go back to things that appear to be better, to go back to a time, to be steeped inside of what has happened versus living in the power of what is happening. So this morning, I just want to encourage each of you to move into the nowness of things. Life is not lived in yesterday. Life is not lived into the day that is to come. Life is lived in the now. So I want to invite you this morning to take a big breath in and exhale. I want you to just receive this affirming prayer. So let us take a moment to acknowledge where we've been without being bound there. So we honor those who have walked before us, names that still carry weight and courage in the soul of this nation. We honor Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Fannie Lou Hamer, Medgar Evers, and so many other names history remembers, and countless others whose names are not known only to spirit, whose names that should be proclaimed, but because of the narrative, because of the educational system that affirms who it wants to affirm, often many have been left out. This morning we acknowledge moments and movements that shifted access and possibility. We acknowledge the emancipation. We acknowledge the period of Reconstruction, desegregation, the civil rights movements, the Voting Rights Act, Brown versus Board of Education. And where I'm at today in St. Louis, I honor on this land and in this city, let us honor the local courage that is often gone unnamed. I remember Dred and Harriet Scott, whose courageous challenge to bondage gave rise to the Dred Scott decision right here in St. Louis, an infamous ruling, now universally regarded as unjust, that nevertheless exposed the moral contradictions of a nation and accelerated the demand for transformation. We remember today a statue of Dred and Harriet Scott that stands at the old courthouse in downtown St. Louis, not as a celebration of this decision, but as a testament to courage, resistance, and unfinished work. I also remember Percy Green, someone I met recently, scaling the Gateway Arch in the 60s during its construction to demand Black inclusion in its building and meaning. I honor his later courage in confronting and helping to unmask what they called here in St. Louis the veiled prophet, exposing how power had been hidden behind ritual and secrecy. Oh, we see that today with ICE, hidden behind a ritual and secrecy, and insisting that what governs a city must no longer remain unseen. So we remember the sanitation workers, educator, educators, the organizers, and everyday citizens, not just in St. Louis, but all across America, who challenged exclusion in housing, labor, and education across the region. So we acknowledge here also in St. Louis, Ferguson, not as a symbol of despair, but as a modern witness that unfinished assumptions still call for conscious authorship. And now I release the belief that honoring the past requires living inside it. I affirm that what was won through sacrifice now calls for stewardship. What was opened through struggle now calls for authorship. What was made accessible now calls for mastery. So we affirm here and now this that dominion has never been revoked. Authorship was never rescinded. And spiritual liberty has never been suspended. So we affirm this morning a new posture in this moment, not this movement, but this moment. Not waiting, not moving. I'm sorry, not waiting, but we're moving. Not remembering alone, but embodying. Not asking permission, but assuming responsibility. So we declare that we are a people who live from principle and not from fear. We are a community that practices freedom, not just proclaim it. We are the authors of our lives, the finishers of our faith, stewards of our gifts, and conscious participants in the unfolding of our highest and greatest good. So we bless this shift. We bless this now. We bless our willingness to live what is already true. And so it is. Ashe. Amen. I hope that was inspiring and put something on your mind. And so as we move deeper into this month, I want you to be mindful that a new season is setting in. I want you to be reminded that certain things are inalienable. And we want to move from declaring things to demonstrating things. Think about that. If this message has been a blessing to you in some form, if you have received some blessing from this ministry over the past week and you want to be a blessing to the ministry, at this point every Sunday, I open up the portal to give you the opportunity to sow a seed, not because there's a need or greed, for I stand on this principle that source prospers me. But also, I have a responsibility to allow those of you who have reaped the harvest to sow into this ministry because of the value you found. And if you desire to do that this morning, you can do it simply by using the following phone number. And this is the number that you can use for a Cash App, or you can use this number for Zelle. It's 708-368-1076. Again, 708-368-1076. And you sow your seed not for need. And you sow it not for greed, but you sow it because you know sowing prospers you. Sowing allows things to move not only to you, but through you and allows it to circulate. Thank you for participating this morning in our time of giving. Thank you for participating this morning in that which I have shared. And so, what I like to do now is go into the green room. So, if you're with us on YouTube, you can stick around and participate in the conversation by dropping your comments in the YouTube section there. And if you're with us this morning on the YouTube, I mean, on the in the Zoom room, I welcome each of you. It's good to see the number of people that are here. And I'd like to start with if you have a question or aha moment of something you want to share, you just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll acknowledge it. But I'll start by looking at some of the comments that I see here. Myrna said, a new narrative for a now actions. I like that. Me too, Myrna. I am aligned with that. You are expressing the law. There it is, the law of correspondence. Yes. Good. So she's a student of the principles. That's one of the universal laws. Yes, the law of correspondence. Or sometimes people label it as you reap what you sow. You be about what you think about. What manifests in our lives are the very things that we are focusing on. So I often say, hocus pocus, where's your focus? And too often, this time in the year, we are lulled back into looking back. But we remember the story of Lot and his wife, and they were told not to look back. Now, sometimes we look back just to see how far we've come, but sometimes we often look back and we get lulled back into what has been. So let's be mindful as we move into this new month. It's a new season. Rachel said, I'm practicing the I am authority. Yes, I am. And centered in the I am authority is the imagination. And the imagination should be about things as we desire them to be, not things as they have been. The word tells us that your latter days will be better than your former days. Gladstone says, every day we face all kinds of giants in our lives. Yes, we do. But we need to realize that we are the operant power. I love that. We have some powerful things being said this morning. We are the operant power, and we need to stand and operate in the power that we have. I am. Also, I would love for either one of you, Gladstone or Myrna, whoever has a comment, to just go ahead and raise your hand so I could bring you on this morning. I think I want to hear from you guys. Rachel says, we do not deny what has presented itself to us, but we deny the power over us. Yes, golden nuggets here. So let's think about those things. So the line is open. Let's have a dialogue. If you guys are open to sharing this morning, um, I'm open to it myself. Let me see what's being said over here in the YouTube channel. I don't see any comments other than greetings, but I'm sure all of you have something worthwhile to say and would love to hear it. I see a couple hands on the board. Sister Rachel, and I'll be right with you, Sister Myrna. Okay, Sister Rachel, you have the mic. You may have to unmute yourself, Sister Rachel. There you
You
go.
hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for this teaching this morning. We're traveling, but I was getting it in, and I'm going to have to listen to it again because I heard something really touched with me. And you was talking about our people, our people who were enslaved, and what brought to mind was the old belief system, and that how the belief system that had been practiced was forced upon us. But
Yeah.
our people had what you call harbor houses. I
Hmm.
was found out about that, and how they would go and they would meet and they would practice their ancient belief, their belief system. But the belief system that was passed on when through colonization, we adopted it. One of the reasons was for survival. You
Survival.
know, it was
Yes.
for survival. And
Yes.
so, but you mentioned Fannie Lou Hamer, and she is she coined what the phrase "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired."
Yes.
So here in about 30 minutes away, she has a foundation here that's been erected for her. And so so much is happening in our government where they saying they're taking down this and overlooking this when it comes to us, our people and the accomplishment. But the scripture said we're to hide the word in our hearts, but yet it's
Yes.
still that whatever they take down, it does not erase from us who we are in our accomplishments. Thank you.
Yes. And I thank you for that. If those who enslaved you frees you, then you are not free indeed.
Yes.
You're free on their principles. And we have to understand, and I like this, that if we could step back in the past, there was not one African that was enslaved that considered themselves a slave. They were enslaved. And we have to look at this interruption from the 400 years of interruption under the European domination to the 1200 years of interruption we find with the Arab exploitation on the continent. We have had almost 2,000 years of interruption, and an interruption can cause you to have amnesia. But we have to get back to the knowingness of who we are. It's one thing to confess it, profess it, but it's another thing to demonstrate it, to live it. And you made another point, or you brought to our attention many times we have adopted what we call Christianity, not because it's a truth, but we adopted it because it was a survival mechanism. And even today, many people still hold on to traditional Christianity for survival reasons. Many pastors continue to teach these false narratives with no proof, but it's a survival mechanism for them to put food on their tables, for them to live the lives they desire. But I'm
Yes.
saying each and every one of us has an individual responsibility to take ownership, to take authorship for how we express the inalienable right to have dominion, to take charge, to be the author and the finisher of our fates. Thank you. Thank you. You guys have a safe trip. How far out are you?
We we're headed towards Shreveport, Louisiana now.
Okay, okay, good. Oh, you guys, are you moving back towards home or you guys going somewhere else?
We are moving back towards home. We headed towards Jackson.
Okay, be safe. You guys,
Thank you.
I'll chat with you in the morning. Awesome,
Okay.
awesome. Good morning, Sister Myrna. You have the mic. And Sister Gladstone, if you're still with us, would love to you to expound more on that operative power. Sister Myrna, you have the mic. Go ahead. You might have to unmute yourself. I see you on the board, but I don't hear you. Let me mute you and unmute you. Okay. Check you're muted. Sister Myrna, go ahead and unmute your mic. It's still showing as muted. Let me see if I can unmute it for you. Nope, you have to. So why don't you go out and come back in, Sister Myrna, if you can. Yeah, okay, good. We'll wait for you. Okay, so while we wait for Sister Myrna to pop back in, is there anything else somebody want to share? Good morning, Sister Beverly. It's good to see you. Grand Rising, awesome. Pray things are well down in the Georgia area that you're in. We have had a strange weather pattern come across the southern half of our nation. But you know, people say when hell freezes over, well, hell is froze over. And we pray that we will rise through this and that we will begin to take authorship and authority of our lives. No longer waiting on a vote, waiting on an agreement, but to be able to stand and say, I have authorship, I have dominion, and to not wait for freedom, but freedom is here. Awesome. Let me see if Sister Myrna is got back yet. Just waiting on her to pop back in. Awesome. So this morning's message is a message about liberation and not the waiting for someone to liberate us, but for us to begin to have that conversation. As I look across the board this morning, I want to see if there's anyone else that has anything they want to share with us. I'm gonna go back over to our YouTube channel and make sure there's not something hanging out there that I've missed. Okay. Good morning, Katalia 777. Good to see you. Um, awesome. Trying to give Myrna an opportunity to get back in. She was wanting to get back in, so we'll wait about a minute or so. But while I'm waiting this morning, as you go to the different programs this month, don't get lulled back into because many of those programs, you know, we're celebrating what has been. We're celebrating what could possibly be, but we're not celebrating what is. And that so is so powerful to celebrate what is, not what's coming, not what has been, but what is. And that's what this message this morning was really all about. Yeah, I got a new message here. Good morning. Let's say No, you didn't miss the operant power. She didn't come on. Would love to have her to come on and share with us. But at the same time, you can come back on if you're ready. You can just come right on, Sister Marna. You have the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
My goodness. Thank you. Good morning, Grand Rising.
Yes.
Happy Sunday. All of the wonderful greetings. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be on Zoom and sharing Zoom with you today. Um, Couple of things. One, I had the pleasure when I was 7 years old of meeting Sister Fannie Lou Hamer at the King Center when my mom was working. And I had no clue who she was at the time, but she is definitely a shero of mine today. Just her fight and her tenacity. Um, she was just a powerful Black woman that I just met. She wrote a book, and my mother had her sign it for me. So I have her children's book that was signed by her. So I'm just very grateful for that connectivity of her and her tenacity and her strength, because I understand being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So definitely with appreciate that, Sister Rachel, of that legacy that's there, and certainly thoughtful about how folks can't take down things if they're on our land. And so the opportunity for us to take ownership of what is ours, and not require others um, to identify what's meaningful to us. So that's point one. The other thing is, and I almost sort of forgot because I wanted to ask about two things, and so I wanted to. I can't remember the other thing I was going to ask about. Uh, so if someone else, because I had to go through all of this reconnecting, I was more focused on that. But I definitely wanted to comment on the Fannie Lou Hamer because I was so very impressed with her. And certainly Ida B. Wells is my number one shero, because I'm just appreciative of powerful Black women who, in spite of the fact
Yes.
that they were not recognized by the Black male leaders and the misogynistic view of the time, and that still exists today, they continued on in spite of.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
And instead of the misery of the moment, they still rose. They did not defer their dreams. And many of these women that you've mentioned wasn't championing a personal cause, but they was championing a communal cause. And we've kind of lost that today. It's a I, me, and mine instead of the a we, us, and then I. And so as we are moving into this month, let us not rehearse that which is dead, but let us stand in the minute minute of this moment and do what we have the ability to do, the thing that represents each of our highest and greatest good. Thank you for sharing that this morning, Myrna. And if it pops back in your mind before we get off, make sure you do that. Yeah. We are the last generation, and when I say we this morning, I'm talking the majority of the individuals that I see on this call are probably above the age of 55. And that means if you are a 60s child or a child of the 50s, a lot of these people who were living in the moment of that movement we knew or we engaged them personally. But we live in a day and time where the children, um, there came a point where there should not have been a need for Black history because we were living it. But today, we're back at the place where history needs to be taught, not a revisionist position of history, but true history, our history. It's a mystery for most of the young people today. Many today don't even know who Dr. Martin Luther King was beyond a dream speech, that speech of 63, but he had other speeches. He evolved. But history has a way, the oppressor has a way of capturing the moments that it wants to have expressed. So we may be on Arab oppression, we may be on the European oppression, but now we're inside of a systemic oppression. But you can be in something and not of it. Your authorship, your divine presence trumps any of that. So let us not walk in that fear. We are the bridge generation. That's correct. We are the ones that have to toe the line and tell the right story and to tell the story of things gone past. But most of all, encourage our young people to be present to the right here, the right now of it, the knowing of their ability to have dominion, their authorship, the operant power that represents them. For there's a power greater than us that resides in all of us. And that's the power we have to allow to express as us. As us. Yes. All right. I see Miss Ivy House is with us. She's taking her power back. Not only did she celebrate her birthday in the month of January, but she closed out January by closing out her educational career as a master teacher. And we want to celebrate you again, Miss House, for the joining the ranks of many of the teachers that have considered it's time to let it go. Now, one thing I know about a teacher, whether you're in the classroom, whether you're retired, that you always are accessible to teach something. So may you have a wonderful, wonderful time in retirement. Sister Martin, I see your hand. You can go ahead if you had something else.
Thank you. I remembered. And so thank you, Sivananda, for encouraging me to just be still and remember. Um, I some of you may or may not know that I'm very much so interested in international cultural exchange, especially international cultural exchange inside of the US, inside of America. So that said, on Friday, I attended a U.S.-China relations meeting here at the Carter Center. And it was quite interesting because they were talking about women and in leadership and the lack thereof in China. And so anyway, someone made the comment that um, where China is and what they're looking at from their perspective, it's a 7,000-year-old nation.
Mm,
And so when we think of the continent, it's tens of thousands of year
yes.
old awareness of things. And the US, I call us we're in the terrible twos. We're toddlers. We're 250 years old.
And
And
we're
so
acting like it too.
correct. And so it's like 7,000 years compared to, and the knowledge and the understanding of humanity from a 7,000-year-old perspective, again, just talking China, and how they look at the US. We change our leadership every 4 years, maybe 8 years, so it's like, the perspective of how we see things and how we respond to things versus how other nations respond to us is very unique and different. And so it's quite interesting. And so I guess what my lesson from that was, oh, this too shall pass. While I'm saying, oh my gosh, we've got 3 more years of this nonsense. Okay, in the big scheme of things, okay, this is just a blip, and this is a nuisance. This is a gnat in, in the cycle of things. And so when you were speaking about um, the the 400 years, and then the Islamic realm of the 1200, that's 2000. Just looking at the holistic of the time of God and the creation and the continuing on of generations to come. Just putting it in that perspective is just much more um, uh, impactful on our part, our little drop of the ocean of necessity of what we do. It's so because we can shift the tide of things, and the significance of each of us having that operant power to to do that.
Mhm. And that's we have to realize, and I thank you for framing it in terms of China having a 7,000 year um, presence, and we having just 250 years, and we oftentimes present ourselves as though we've been this operant power for a very long time. But I'm concerned because when you look at the recent history, governments topple at about 200, 250 years. Look at what happened to Greece, look like what happened to Rome, and look what's happening in America. And sometimes some things need to come apart before they can be put back in a more perfect way. Um, our government has been an experiment, and some people have gained from it, and the vast majority haven't. But we have to be very careful that we don't continue to regulate who we are to a party, or be it the right wing or the left wing. But each one of those wings are connected to the same system, the same bird. And so we just have to be mindful that we have an operant power that we can operate from. We don't have to continue to wait for handouts, that we don't no longer have to wait on a government to do for us. And during Kwanzaa, there's a principle, Kujitagalia, to name for ourselves, to do for ourselves, but we have allowed others to do for us and to name us. Let's stop allowing people to define our situation. Let's stop allowing situations to define ourselves. And early in the conversation, I saw someone mention, let me see if I can find that. Um, Something was said in the feed that it caught my attention. Um, I want to see if I can find that. But something, it was stated that we're always going to have something. But I want you to know that something don't last always, or trouble. But I also want you to realize this. When there is a contrast presented to each of us, it's the opportunity for us to show our mastery of it, to put the principle into practice, and not to look at situations and contrasts as things that are overtaking us or meant to overwhelm us, but just as life's opportunity for us to take the test and pass it. And if you don't pass that time around, there's no failure, but that's an opportunity to say, I need to perfect this principle. Now, also, Sister Myrna, Sister Beverly is from the Atlanta area. So I hope you guys can join up, and she loves the arts. I think you guys may want to connect, Sister Beverly and Sister Myrna. Myrna is the America's songstress. The South has claimed her as the South songstress, but I think you guys would enjoy conversations with one another. Like minds think alike. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, there's that number. Sister um, Bev, if you would take that down, so that way you can connect with her. All right. Okay. Rachel said, thanks for the wing analogy. And she's dropped, Myrna, Bev's dropped her number there for you also. So there's another connection that's being made down there. Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up this morning's conversation. We are right at the top of the hour. Normally, I like to go about 30 minutes in the teaching part of it, presenting part of it, and then we can get an ongoing conversation. I've enjoyed immensely this dialogue because I bring a message, I don't bring the answers. And many times the answers are found in the dialogue that ensues from each of you. So, let's celebrate what has been. Let's show appreciation for what has been. Let's show gratitude for what has been. But let's celebrate what is now. See clearly what's before you. Get clear on what the challenge is. And then from there, identify the principle that should be taken to practice. You focus on fear, the things you fear will be the things that show up. Okay, so get out of that rearview mirror. Look through that windshield that's ahead of you. Good to see each of you this morning. My time is spent, well spent, and I pray that you received what is taking place this morning. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see those of you who join us every Monday, Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time for our morning meditations. If you want to get a sense of what those meditations are like, you can go to my website, Soulutions, that's Soul, solutionsforliving.com, and you go over to the tab, you'll find one that says blogs, and you open that up, and you'll see there's over 300 different topics out there. Poke around. I'm sure there's something out there for you. Again, thank you all for joining this morning, and I'll see you next week for the Science of Living teaching. Peace. Have a wonderful day.